What is up, my loves? Welcome back to another episode of the Fully Alive podcast. My name is Stephanie Ellsperman. I am your host, and today we are diving into how to get in the zone when you've been just a little bit funky. Maybe you felt a little bit off of your game, far from your vision, or lacking the creativity, inspiration, and passion that you know is available to you. Maybe you're feeling far from that purpose that you know that you're here to serve in this world. You might be feeling anxious, distracted, overwhelmed, a little bit numb, whatever flavor your funk is. At the heart of it, you know that you just feel off your game. In this episode, I'm going to take you through the biggest mistake that I typically see high performers make that keeps them in this cycle of feeling funky, the key shift that you get to make to actually blast through that funk, and 6 steps to then get in the zone and feel that inspiration that you've been craving so that you can get back to being an absolute boss and a CEO within your life with so much ease and care for yourself. So with that said, if you want a little dose of inspiration and motivation, you are exactly in the right place. It's going to be quick, snappy, short, and I'll see you in the podcast episode. So first things first, we've got to normalize the funk out of the funk, baby. Your funk is so normal. And I say that as somebody who feels funky probably at least once a week, especially if I'm in my late luteal phase. Ladies, you know, I'm going to be feeling a little bit funky. It is so normal. And I say this because all of the time I have people come to me, typically high performers who hold themselves to such a high standard within their life. Maybe you're one of them. And they're like, Steph, I just feel a little bit like off of my vision. I feel a little bit like I'm lacking my inspiration, my creativity that I know I felt before. I know that I have it in me, but I'm not feeling it right now. I'm feeling very funky. And it's like, oh, welcome to being human. There's nothing wrong or bad about having a funk. And in actuality, it's here to teach you something. So if we can start to see it as A, something that's normal, B, something that's here to teach you something, we can actually make it work in your favor and use it to put you ahead. Because the reality is, being an entrepreneur or building a personal brand, no matter what industry you're in, is all about being in charge of your life. This is why I say business is my most spiritual practice, because yes, you get to meet so many sides of yourself. You get to have all of your past patterns, fears, doubts arise to the surface to be seen, to be walked through. But on top of that, you get to be in charge of your life and your energy in a way that 99% of humans will never get to be. It is so easy when you're under the guise of somebody else, and maybe you aren't, leading a company or leading a brand, leading yourself in your own career. It's easy to just kind of go through the motions, to be in your funk, to wait for it to wear off, and to just ho-hum throughout your life. But when you are an entrepreneur and you are in charge of calling the shots within your life, you probably become even more hyper aware of your funks because your energy is your greatest asset. But B, you are in charge of where that ship goes. And the biggest mistake that I typically see for high performers is waiting for something outside of yourself to shift your energy internally, to shift that funk of saying, oh, well, I just need to wait for this inspiration. I just need to feel more inspired. I need to feel more motivated, and waiting for that motivation to come on top of you and for something to blast through your own funk instead of putting in the work to actually reconnect you to your own power and activate it yourself. That is being in the driver's seat of your own life. And so if there's one key shift that I can give you, it is that your energy is your own responsibility. And I say that with so much freaking love. Your energy is your responsibility. There's nobody else that is feeling what you are feeling going on internally. There's no one else who's thinking what's going on in your brain. There's nobody that can save you from your own energy. You get to create the shift yourself. And that gets to be something that's absolutely empowering, because when you can see yourself as the director of your own energy and being in charge of it, it immediately puts you in the victor position instead of being a victim. When we look at, oh, I'm in a funk and, hopefully I feel more inspired next week, or hopefully this wears off. If we're in that sort of energy, on a low level, we're kind of being a victim to our own environment and our own experiences, versus saying, I am the one who gets to shift this. And therefore, I'm going to put myself in the driver's seat of my life. My energy is my own responsibility. My inspiration is my responsibility. My motivation is my own responsibility. And therefore, how can I shift this? How can I make it work in my favor? All right. So let's get into these 6 steps to actually blast through this funk, get in the zone, and make it work in your favor. So the first is to actually pause, baby. Pause. You cannot shift a funk by running from it. And so often it's easy to distract yourself, to get into other people's drama or problems, to just stay busy instead of actually addressing what you're feeling internally. And the first step to being able to shift it is to take a second, slow down, stop running, and be with it. Be with you in this moment. And it could be as simple as taking 5 minutes to really notice how you're actually feeling. I guarantee that very thing that you're avoiding, which is dropping in with yourself, is going to be the portal. I know it is the portal for you shifting this funk. And if you can go into it, it's going to do you so well. So step 2 is to actually welcome the funk. Instead of pushing it away and saying this is wrong or bad for experiencing it, bring it in to your heart and saying, I welcome this part of being a human in this world. I can't run from it. I'm not going to fight it. And maybe even it's here to teach you something. And I could go into an entire podcast episode all about excavating the entire lesson. But the first step to really being able to shift it is welcoming it in, saying, it's okay. You are safe to be here with me. This feeling, this is safe to be here with me. I will do well with it. And I'll notice, like, what is this here to actually teach me or show me in this moment? And the third step is asking a very clear question to yourself to get honest with where you're at. And it's a question that I have been loving asking myself lately. And it is, are you feeling far from yourself? Or are you feeling close to yourself? Are you feeling far from yourself or close to yourself? Because the reality is, at the end of the day, it's you and you, baby. It sounds so cliche, but you are your own best friend. It's you and you. And so when we're looking at blasting through a funk and really activating your own power, it comes from being close, being in an intimate relationship with yourself first. And it is so easy to go through life feeling far from yourself, far from your truth, far from your heart, far from just having close and intimate time with yourself. And to expect then to feel your power when you've been far from yourself, it's just like, where is it going to come from? It's somewhat unrealistic. In order to feel our own power, we have to have a relationship that is absolutely close with ourselves. And you might have your own key markers for when you're feeling far from yourself. I personally like to understand, like, what is it like? What am I feeling when I'm actually far from myself, so that I can catch myself in that and create a shift to actually bring myself closer to me. And those markers are, maybe you feel scattered, maybe you feel a bit anxious or strung out or feeling really exhausted and burnt out. That is a huge one, where you just feel like you're running on fumes. Maybe you feel numb or easily distracted in other people's energy, etc. You're going to have your own. But once you notice yourself in that space, it's that clear marker of like, okay, interesting. Maybe I'm far from myself right now. What can I do to actually bring myself closer? So when we're feeling close to ourselves, it's those feelings of, you're like, I can feel my freaking power. You feel connected to your own heart. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything is sunshine and rainbows and perfect in your life, but you're clear on your own specific vision. You've dedicated time to yourself such that you're understanding how you're feeling, the things that are moving through your brain. You feel like you're having this intimate connection with you, and you're aware of what it is that you bring to the table. You're aware of your X factor and the specific genius that you have within your life. You're in this beautiful, intimate relationship with yourself. And some key markers for when you're actually close to yourself is being at peace, being able to handle anything, even if it's challenging. I know for me, it's like when I am actually having this dedicated relationship to myself and I feel close to myself, close to my own power. It doesn't matter what life throws my way, I can handle it. If I'm feeling far from myself, I immediately want to play the victim because I'm not feeling my own power. And therefore, it is so easy to push it off and say, oh my gosh, I'm at the effect of life. I'm overwhelmed by this. When in actuality, if I can feel my power and I'm having that dedicated time to be close with myself, I can handle absolutely anything. Give me anything and I can make it work in my favor, right? It's that feeling of I am in charge here. So how do we create a relationship where we're actually close with ourselves and therefore we can reignite this passion and this inspiration within our own lives? The first thing, and you probably kind of heard me weave this through, exactly what we're talking about is having time to actually spend with yourself. And this might not necessarily look like every single day at 5 a.m. you sit down and you meditate and then you journal your your top 3 intentions of the day. Like, no, it might be very specific to you. For me, I like to create a menu list of things that remind me of my power, things that actually remind me of who the fuck I am. And a lot of my own personal list comes from activities that make me pause. Because yes, I could say, go to a CrossFit class, you're going to, reawaken to your power. If that's for you, amazing. But for me personally, it's like I work out consistently. Yes, I feel my strength, but that's not where I get close to myself. That's not where I work through the things that are going on in my brain and how I'm feeling and letting my heart actually breathe. Some days it might, but that's not always my consistent practice to get close with myself. Maybe it is for you, right? But create a menu list of what reminds you of your own power. There's 2 different ways that I typically recommend doing this. It could be either having a quick 3, so 3 things that you do every single day that remind you of your power, and it's a consistent practice. Or you might be the person where you have a menu list of items and different practices that make you feel close to yourself. I'm the latter. I like to have a menu list of items, take you through behind the scenes. What I personally do to feel close to myself is every other day, I'm typically moving my body and going to the gym. The days that I go to the gym, my top 3 is I wake up, no phone in the morning, and I get ready. I go to the gym and I listen to a podcast or an audiobook, something that reminds me of my own power. If then I'm still feeling far from myself, then I'll come back and I'll do something from my menu list of items, but it's not always a given because we got shit to do. I can't take 4 hours in the morning every single day. It's beautiful when I get to, but I don't always do that. We got things to do. So on those days where I work out, it's just like bada bing, bada boom, we're just going. So every other day, when I have more spaciousness in my morning, maybe I'm going for a walk, maybe I'm going for a run, maybe it's a rest day, that's when I like to work in this menu list of items. So for me, I love to either journal for 3 pages. That is freaking awesome, awesome, awesome practice. You're not always going to feel like you want to do it. You're not always going to have something on your mind, but I guarantee once you give yourself that target of hitting 3 pages and you just let yourself write, it is chef's kiss amazing. It's actually from a practice called Morning Pages that's in a book called The Artist's Way. Or meditation. So meditating for 10 to 15 minutes. Breath work. I like to have a book that I read from every single day. I'll link it in the show notes. But it's the Stoic book where there's an excerpt every single day. You might have your own book that you tap into every single day, or it could be a walk and a podcast or a book. I love listening to Michael Singer's weekly talks. Those are so freaking good for cutting straight back to the heart and reminding you who the fuck you are. And that for me is my list. I keep it short. I keep it simple. Those are the things that remind me of my power and who I am. And so every other day I will choose from that. Lately, I've been journaling 3 pages every single day and having that be my committed practice for actually getting in tune with my heart and always knowing what's actually going on in here. So step 4 is to create that menu list of items for you. What reminds you of your power, do it easy, keep it in your phone and access it. Step number 5 is to bring the vision back to the forefront of your mind. I know it's really cute to create a vision once, but if you created a vision once and it was months ago and you haven't revisited it since, and you expect it to just magically be in your mind every single day and be at the forefront, even though life is lifing and things happen and you're human and you have different experiences, I hate to break it to you, but it's somewhat unrealistic. I even myself, especially when I'm doing something new and maybe I'm elevating my vision, maybe I'm up-leveling what I want for myself, my brain is going to want to go back to what's comfortable. It's going to want to think in patterns that are comfortable. It's going to want to forget my vision altogether because my system likes comfort rather than the unknown. This vision is something new. So when you're in the process of stretching yourself, it is so normal to have to refresh your vision over and over and over to start to ingrain it into your body around what it is that you want, who you are, and the mission that you're here to serve. And so I recommend, if you haven't done this in a hot second, take 25 minutes, set a timer on your phone and write for 3 pages. What is your vision? What do you want out of this life? What do you stand for? What are you calling in from this point moving forward? Even if you've done it before, repetition is so key for actually being able to get your energy behind it so that you can own it. It's one thing to say the vision and for it to feel like it's at an arm's distance out in front of you. It's another thing to repeatedly feel it, see it, know it, so that you bring it closer into your own energy. Your energy feels behind it and you're like, yes, I am just this person. It happens through repetition. And so if you've been feeling like you've been lacking inspiration, when was the last time you actually looked at your vision? Inside of Magnetic Business and Purpose Mastery, we actually do what is called your purpose code activator, which is a combination of your vision, your values, your mission, some visuals, and also your goals. That's what I personally like to read every single day. If I'm not journaling it out, I'm reading it or I'm listening to an audio version of me reciting that purpose code activator. So set a timer, get that vision back to the forefront of your brain. What do you want for you first? Not for other people. What do you want for you? Step number 6 is to look at that vision and notice what is one little micro tiny action step that you can take to move the needle towards that vision. And I'm not saying a whole huge project. I'm saying a tiny itty bitty micro action step. I want you to scratch your to-do list, the traditional to-do list that you typically see where it's like, write down all of these big projects that are in front of you. How often do you put something on that to-do list and then it gets lost into what I call the abyss of the to-do list, where it just stays there for months and months and months, and then you lose momentum with it and you're like, what does that even mean anymore? It's because typically we are putting way too big of things on our to-do list. So you might put on your to-do list, create X project, but in actuality, that project is 10 steps into one. And so because it isn't yet broken down, there's nothing to cross off. We know the brain gets a dopamine hit every single time there's something to cross off on your to-do list. So if you can break up that project into the itty bitty micro action steps, A, you actually get to cross them off. You get to see that momentum. B, it's easier to get into it. You remove the barriers to entry because you have a clear, tiny micro action step that you could complete in 15 to 30 minutes. And you could do one of those a day. Guaranteed, you're going to start to make more progress towards what it is that you desire than if you just put this massive project on your to-do list, because your brain automatically sees it and it's like, okay, there's a lot to do there. Oh, I don't have time for that. I've got so many other things going on. Like life is lifing. I can't do that today. You're doing yourself a disservice. So scratch the to-do list. What is one little micro action step that you could take to get you back into the groove of moving the needle towards your goals, and have so much fun with it? Your funk is not wrong or bad. It's here to teach you. You are welcome to go through it, and your energy is your biggest responsibility. So from this podcast episode, you have a whole list of action items. All right. To recap, it's to pause, to let yourself have time with you. Welcome the funk. Notice, are you close to yourself? Or are you feeling a little bit far from yourself? Feeling far from yourself? What reminds you of your own power? Create a menu list of different practices that bring you back into that close relationship with yourself and your own truth. Then from there, set a timer, 25 minutes, brain dump your vision. What is it? What do you want for you? And what is one micro action step that can move the needle towards that vision? Not a huge project, not a massive to-do list. What is one micro action step, and go complete it. I love you all. Thank you for being here. I cannot wait to see you on the next podcast episode. Mwah! I'll see you there.